はい、それでは、ジェフさん、今日はお時間取っていただいてありがとうございます。えー
I know it's really good to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me into your community.
はい、ジェフさん、まずは、今度、日本でワークショップを、開催してくれるということで、まず事前に、一緒にファシリテートしてくれるアビゲイルさんのインタビューをさせていただいたんですけれども、アビゲイルさんとジェフさんの関係について、そして、ジェフさんの自己紹介について、ちょっとまず最初伺えたらと思います。簡単にお願いします。
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, first, I should say that Abigail, first and foremost, is my wife. So we got right to the relationship with Abigail. And we've been married for almost 10 years and have been collaborators and work partners as well. And so about 20 years ago or so, I started doing integral development work and co-founded an organization called Pacific Integral and created a program called Transforming, sorry, Trend, I'll start this over. Created a program called Generating Transformative Change. So this program is kind of our core piece of work that we've done over all of those years, and we've built on it in a body of work that has to do with supporting particularly those in leadership and who conceive of themselves as change makers in the world in a kind of integral developmental process that's both personal and collective, and also explores what the theory and practice of transformative change is. And so Abigail joined me in that work, not long after we met, and she's one of the faculty and partners in the business. And we have a group of people who are teachers and coaches and consultants that engage in this practice of transformative change. How do we evolve? How do we develop? And my own background prior to doing this work is I was in technology, I was in business. So I have a background in business and entrepreneurship. For the past 20 years, I've been working as a coach and teacher in this type of work, both consulting in organizations and also doing somatic healing work with individuals, teaching integral theory and practice, a variety of different kinds of modalities. But it's really all different occasions for me to be involved with supporting our own evolution and our own realization, our own arrival more deeply into ourselves and who we are. So I'll pause there and now and see if you have a follow-up question to that. That's a little bit of a background with me.
ありがとうございます。そうですね。すごく興味深いんですが、どうしてそのジェフさんはこのJTC プログラムとかパシフィックインテグラルをこう作りたいと思ったんですか？それは何か今まであるインテグラルコミュニティで存在しているプログラムと何かそこにはないものがあって、新しいものが必要だっていうふうに思ったんでしょうか？
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think part of the what I hear in your question is kind of looking out at the landscape and seeing what's there, what's not there, and is there something for us to add to that? And that's a kind of question that you can ask about when you engage in endeavor. And I think there was ways at the time that we really saw a desire to do something different, which is to do something that's really more engaged with embodiment, practice, and application. And at the time, the integral world was really rooted more in theory than practice in many ways. And to the extent it was rooted in practice, it was, we felt like there could be deeper directions to go with in embodiment, in relationship, in collective work. So we saw some unique things that we wanted to add. But if I look at the question from a different perspective, um, our attention was less on the integral world because that was one thing that influenced us and inspired us, but there were many things that inspired us. It's less on the integral world than on the world at large, right? And if you look at the world at large and see what's going on in the world, you see lots of need for support for our own evolution as a human species and as societies and as individuals. So there's no lack of need for that. And I think at the time we had a sense that the world was in a kind of tipping point, in a kind of transformative moment where our ways of approaching organizing, of seeing the world, of engaging in the world, had come to a kind of fruition, and we were seeing a time of change, a time of great change coming. You know, this was like 18 years ago. Now it's obviously here with what's happening. We obviously now see a need for a kind of global awareness, a kind of planetary consciousness, if you will, as our biggest challenges are not national or personal or social, they're really planetary. And that was the kind of sense that we had at the time when we started the organization, was how can we cultivate capacities so that when we really need those capacities, we'll have them available to us to think in more complex ways, to be more agile, to be more awake.